Well, it's a few days removed from WrestleMania 31 and... oh my goodness. That has to be the best WrestleMania I have seen since WrestleMania 18. It's been that long, folks. Let's get the previews out of the way. The WWE Tag Team title match. This should have been on the pay-per-view. You know, I don't know what it is with WWE relegating title matches to pre-shows when they're supposed to have prestige and lineage. Another example of this particular ill-advised booking goes back to WrestleMania 29's pre-show, putting the Intercontinental Championship on the pre-show when that's supposed to be the second most important championship in the entire company. But that's another story. I thought all the combatants and the two champions played their part immensely. Cesaro and Kidd, they're getting over well, and it's nice to see Cesaro as well as Tyson Kidd actually being used properly for a change. But should have been on the pay-per-view. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal kind of had an inkling that Big Show would win this, and considering the guy's maybe, 2 or 3 years away from retirement, it only made sense to give him that trophy, considering he has been compared to Andre's entire career. And finally, Mizdow grew a set and told Miz where to go. Glad to see that. Now for the actual card. The only criticism I have with the Intercontinental Championship ladder match was that it was on first. Other than that, that was a perfect match. I haven't seen a ladder match akin to that of, say, the second TLC ladder match, which was at WrestleMania 17. Heck of a match, though, especially when Edge did that spear against Jeff Hardy in midair. Good lord. Also, kind of gave me reminders of Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon from WrestleMania 10. I can't believe that was 21 years ago. And, you know, reminded me of the first Money in the Bank ladder match from 10 years ago. Has it really been 10 years since Edge won the first Money in the Bank? Good lord. Dean Ambrose sold it like a boss. Daniel Bryan deserved to be Intercontinental Champ. To be fair, every single combatant, even Wade Barrett, deserved to be Intercontinental Champion in that match, although Barrett has done little to nothing to be deserving of said title, so there's another set of circumstances. I did think that it might have gone to Ziggler, but for the most part, this was a decent match, and glad Bryan's got the belt. But again, my only criticism should have been in the middle of the card. Randy Orton, Seth Rollins is a classic catch-as-cats-can wrestling match. The current tested veteran, very tested technical veteran versus the new breed technical wrestler, and they pulled out what I considered a main event caliber match. And what is it with Randy Orton pulling? He literally does pull that RKO out of nowhere. And particularly when Seth Rollins was going to curb stomp Orton again. Orton literally just jumped up and RKO. I'm like, the heck? I love that match. I thought it was awesome. Okay, Sting versus Triple H, decent match. Kind of gave me reminders of Undertaker Triple H from WrestleMania 17, which originally it was supposed to be Shawn Michaels versus Triple H, but because of backstage problems at the time and of Shawn's state of mind at the time, that's for another story, it was chosen to be Undertaker Triple H, and that ended up being a decent, heck of a decent match from what I remember watching, which you can get on DVD, of course. But Sting, you know, for a guy that's been there and done it all, the guy has not lost a beat. It was better late than never, but we finally got to see the NWO versus D-Generation X. I would have preferred it if DX had invaded the episode of Monday Nitro in 1998 when it was just fresh after WrestleMania 14. If Can you imagine what that would have been like as a spectacle to watch on TV if DX had invaded the Nitro set? Again, better late than never. And we gave an inkling. It gave us an inkling of what it could have been like. And did anyone notice that when Nash got dropped to the floor, he went straight and held his quad? Make of that what you will. But heck of a decent match. I would have preferred if Sting had won, but both of them gave us everything that they had. And Trips, we know that you're a huge admirer of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but did you really need to have him included in the video package? I'm just saying. A decent Divas tag match. Who knew? Gonna be honest, they did make the Divas, tried to make the Bellas look strong. Wait, I thought that was reserved for Roman Reigns. But to be fair, the Bellas had the most momentum and most dominance, but once AJ was in, different ball game. And that had to be one of the more aggressive and physical Divas matches, because I cannot recall the last time a Diva was literally thrown into the steps by ringside. I mean, I know the Divas are, in physically good shape, and there'll probably just be like 1 or 2 bruises on Bree's shoulder, but that had to hurt. And again, I cannot recall a time where they've actually had a Diva do that. So that was something, and glad to see AJ and Paige pick up the win, because, let's face it, if the Bellas had won that match, that crowd would have rained down on that decision, in a similar vein to what would have happened if Daniel Bryan had not been in the main event last year. But that's another story. Okay, Cena Rusev. This was a foregone conclusion before it even began. Because Cena's dropping down to the mid-card just to give Roman Reigns a chance and other superstars to have their time, because you have to think logistically, Cena's probably only got maybe 3 or 4 more years left in him, and they really need him to really give the mid-card something to be excited about. And having a former 15-time undisputed champion to actually put some prestige back into the United States title, which, let's be honest, the US belt hasn't had any prestige or anything noteworthy since MVP held it, and that's going back a few years. Typical scenario, Rusev was like the unstoppable opponent, and Cena battled back with a stunner. What? But Rusev had to lose sooner or later, and what a surprise, it was John Cena. And that's the first time he's held that United States belt in 10 years. What's next? He holds the Intercontinental title, and somewhere in parts unknown, Oni Rakaku and Gurak Weaval are head desking as we speak. Well, guys, it could be worse. He could actually form a tag team with Johnny Ace and become tag team champions. Then they would be called Botchamania. Undertaker versus Bray Wyatt. I'm going to be honest, the dead man looked not only in much better shape this time around, but in all honesty, the look he had this year was something very similar to how he returned at WrestleMania 20 with. I don't think he's as back to full ring fitness or sharpness as he was once before, and considering he only shows up once a year, it's not something he would, go all out to try and work a rigorous schedule, because, guys, he's got nothing left to prove. This guy is a 7-time world champion, the first superstar to win the Royal Rumble match from the number 30 spot, and has innovated and instigated different types of matches in the past. This guy's already got it made, and he's a future Hall of Famer, for sure. Now, considering Bray Wyatt was supposed to be injured in this match, I thought the guy pulled out a good match. He made the Taker look good, and Taker goes 22-1. I like the fact that they're not, groaning on about the streak, and maybe that's something I should do too, because it's only one match that he lost versus 22 he's won. Name any other WWE superstar, past or present, that has that record. No, none of them come even close. Welcome back, Undertaker. We missed you. I suppose I should address the big pink elephant in the room, and by that definition I don't mean some of Goldust and Stardust's ring attires, although I wouldn't stop them from doing that. The Triple H and Stephanie McMahon ego massaging session, along with The Rock coming to verbally berate them for 10 to 15 minutes. While it was good to see the 10-time world champion come back and start exchanging some verbal smacks with Triple H and Steph, and to be fair, Steph knows how to take it, considering she used to be berated by Jericho, and I kind of felt at times Jericho kind of went a little too far with some of his promos. I mean, you only need to look at what he did in 2000 and 2001 to know what I mean. Especially anything that involved Trash Bag. Make of that, just go Google it, YouTube it. It's all there. The inclusion of Ronda Rousey. Now, this is the first time I've actually ever seen Ronda Rousey get physical because, for one, I don't watch UFC. Not because I don't like it, it's because I'm just not a fan. It's not my thing. But the girl is not to be messed with. Now, Steph has some ring experience, but Steph's no Lita. She's no Trish, she's no Mickie James, she's certainly not AJ Lee, Caitlyn, or even Paige. I mean, to put this into context, if Steph ever stepped foot into the octagon, Steph would just be an appetizer to what Ronda Rousey could do to her in the octagon. And the segment was okay, but I would rather The Rock just face Triple H one more time in the ring rather than just be reduced to, an ego massaging session. Because was there really any need for this? I mean, I felt like I was watching an episode of Raw again from 2 years ago, and that was one of the reasons why I quit watching Raw. I don't know how better Raw is these days, because why would I go back to something I don't enjoy, And then we come to the main event, which I felt was the weakest match on the card because Brock just did nothing but suplex City, kept Reigns grounded, and it didn't really allow Reigns to retort with anything aside from maybe a couple of hits and that really defining spear that took Lesnar out, which saw Seth Cartman Rollins cash in Money in the Bank, which I'm going to have to check the rules to see if that's legitimate, because I don't ever recall the rules for Money in the Bank stating they could cash in whilst a match was going on. I could be completely wrong and the rules were never, were there and never stated, but who knows. And he kind of salvaged that match because I thought the main event was very lackluster. I mean, Lesnar's a great specimen, great athlete, but I like to see a little bit of give and take, and it was just all him taking, and there was no give. And I mean, when I think of a good WWE title match, I think of Rock versus Austin from Mania 17, Shawn Michaels versus Cena from WrestleMania 23, Triple H versus Michaels from the New Year's Eve of Raw in 2003, which saw Steve Austin come back as the Sheriff of Raw, was so fun. Or another one, CM Punk versus John Cena from Money in the Bank 2011. Still one of the best title matches to this day. So, it was a damn good pay-per-view. I think the only, the US title match and the Undisputed title match, those were probably the only ones where I had the most amount of criticism for. But aside from that, WrestleMania 31, I was genuinely surprised. I mean, for one thing, they stepped out of their comfort zone. They had John Cena go down to the mid-card, away from the main event. I know they did that last year with Wyatt, but then they had him brought back up to the main event because Bryan was injured and they needed someone to fall back on. But, we never saw Seth Rollins coming in to cash in. I know I kind of predicted that would happen because I thought, well, if he takes the fall to Orton, then he'll be rewarded later and allow him to cash in. And Rollins is not the most, how should I say, the most automatic choice I would have as WWE Champion. And I'm not a personal fan of his character the way it is at the moment, but the guy has worked his tail to the bone to get where he is today. So, I might not like the guy's character, but the athlete, he earned that. And I'm just glad the belt is off of Lesnar, because I think the belt should be there every pay-per-view. And the fact it wasn't there at Survivor Series either, that kind of degrades the title a little bit. Whether Lesnar will actually regain the belt, which I personally hope he doesn't, because, with Lesnar, there's very few people that can beat him. One of the few that did it back in the day was Kurt Angle and Eddie Guerrero. And they were all awesome matches, by the way. But yeah, WrestleMania 31 as a whole, I'm going to go on record on saying this. This is the best WrestleMania since WrestleMania 18. And you can quote me on that. WrestleMania 31, hang on, try that again. WrestleMania 31 gets a grade awesome plus. It's going to be one of those few that I will watch again, and again. Tune in this week for the season finale, for the season 2 finale of SmackBack. Pardon me. But until then, good night from the night.